and welcome to another edition of the Love Power Show. And we've got a special guest on the phone, but in the studio we have Omar Baruti, Lonnie Simmons, Taudu El-Amin, and we have Jeffrey Steele and Miss Erica, and as usual, our technician, Isaac Woodridge. Welcome again to the show. Let's go right to the phones. Brother Ashra Kwesi.
Yes, sir. How you doing, brother? Honored to be on your show. Love power. Love it.
Yes, sir. And we are honored to have you join us today.
Yes, sir. Honored to be on the show.
Yes, sir.
About the love of self.
Absolutely. Love thyself, know thyself. Yes, all of that good stuff. And so,
hear you, brother.
yes, sir. Did he say he couldn't hear me?
Yeah. Go.
Okay, I tell you what. How's that, Brother Kwesi?
I will, brother. Just to hear the echo, but I can hear you, though.
Okay. You're going to be here on the 4th.
Yes, honored to be on the show, brother. To talk about the program that's coming up on June 4th, and as I said, your show, Love Power, which is power within itself, but the first love starts with the love of ourselves, the love of our black divinity, the love of us as a people. And for 35 years of my life, that love started going back to Africa to see what our ancestors wrote for thousands of years on temples and tombs. And now 35 years of lecturing around the country and outside the country on the power of the love of our black divinity.
Yes. And you're going to get started at 4 o'clock on the 4th, is that right?
If I'm not mistaken, the program will start, the doors open at 2:30.
At 2:30.
The show starts at 3 p.m. And it's both my wife and I. Okay, that's true power of love. In fact, that's where we come with the balance, so we can see it from the black man's point of view, the black woman's point of view.
Absolutely.
And hers is on the cultural destruction of African fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And my lecture will be on the resurrection of the Black Christ, as I mentioned, the Black divinity, and the whole spirituality of all of that going back what African people created thousands of years ago.
Yes.
That I have documented on temples and tombs for thousands of years, and we're coming with a visual PowerPoint lecture, so we can see the great history of who we are as a people. We know that when we talk about our divinity, that divinity was taken away during slavery, and it's something that we need to deal with to create the self-hatred. So the true power of the first love is the love of self, and knowing thyself, and that's what we come with, as we call it in Kim University. And we're going to thank Brother Titus, who's putting on, as I refer to, the Kim University. And when I say Kim University, I'm speaking of the people coming together in the community where we can lecture and do the program from an African syllabus point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds great. Now, today we had planned to talk about the culture and identity of a people, and that goes right with your presentation. So are there any key points that you're going to touch on the 4th? Because what we want to do today is talk with you about 15 minutes.
Yes, sir.
And I have about 3 questions. And Brother Jeffrey has 1 question in particular. And then there are 4 of us on the panel. Well, actually, 5 of us. And the panelists may have some questions as well. But can you highlight 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 points on your from your lecture coming up on the 4th?
As I mentioned, the lecture is titled The African Origin of Christianity and the Resurrection of the Black Christ. And what I'm talking about is with African people right there in the land of Kemet, is called today Egypt, on the temples and tombs to validate with many spiritual ideas that we see in the Western religions that we see today, and that actually started by African people thousands of years ago. So, of course, when we think of the Black Christ, many of us think of it from a European perspective, and unfortunately, many of us look at it from a European Christ. But that black divinity goes back thousands of years. And when we look at the temples and tombs, we can see this. When I'm speaking of temples and tombs, I'm speaking of that which is written in Egypt thousands of years ago. We look at History Channel, Discovery Channel. Sometimes they try to reveal this information, but many years of going over there, I've documented places where Discovery and History Channel don't go to show black people in the temples and tombs going back thousands of years. So ideas that we see today in the resurrection, salvation, and many of these spiritual ideas started with black people thousands of years ago. And unfortunately, this has not been revealed in Western academia. It has not been revealed in theological schools because, for the most part, we see a European or a white version of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that considering that President Obama, mentioned that slavery was 150 years ago. That wasn't long ago. So I think that now we're going through a new emancipation. And that emancipation is the emancipation of our mind now. So we can think outside of what we've been taught in the Western world and see where many have come and plagiarized or copied many ideas from. When we look at black culture in America today, we see it's been incorporated into the white culture of today, but yet there's some things that we see in American culture. It's not revealed that it came from black people. So the same thing that we see with history, the same thing that we see with various religions. And these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about and coming with visual documentation, not for people to believe what I'm saying, but for people to think about what I'm saying.
Yes.
And of course, my wife's going to come to deal with the show with the very idea of fashion that we see today and European fashions that we see that they wear today. It's unbeknownst to us as black people in America that many of these fashions that we see actually came from black people thousands of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be a truly an eye awakening, okay, above all to make us think, and to above all to open up that genetic memory bank, okay, that we all have. 35 years ago, I asked many questions years ago. I was meeting a man named Dr. Yosef Yakin in Long Beach State back in 1973, and he gave a very powerful lecture. And I stopped and asked him, can you believe what you're, can you prove what you're saying today? He said, young man, not only could I prove it, I can take you back to Africa and show you. So that started my dream of returning back to Africa. I made that journey in 1980 when I had not missed a year in 35 years of returning back to Africa. In fact, we have 2 tours going out this summer. So my wife and I conduct these educational tours that we do annually every summer. Again, to awaken that genius that we all have, no matter what it is, we can find our story in it once we start to research it. These are some of the highlights that we're going to be bringing out. But above all, we're going to be talking about our black identity, okay, that whole black spirituality and the whole meaning of the black Christ. To understand what that is and how our ancestors taught that we are all representatives of that Christ. That means a spiritual development in all of us. Until, of course, the Europeans came and corrupted that spiritual idea for the worship of more of a white divinity that we have today.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Now, listen. We support your work, and not only that, I remember, I guess, over 20, maybe 30 years ago, close to 35 years ago, back when the big old tapes were being manufactured. I bought some from you, and then we've looked at you.
The big what?
The big, cause you remember the big VHS tapes, right?
Oh, the VHS tapes.
That was a while back. So I've been watching your work since. Right, absolutely. So, and there are many of us here know about Dr. Yokana. So absolutely.
Made a transition.
Yes.
Last year.
Right. So we're looking forward to it. But you mentioned some key words. I've just got a couple more questions, and then we'll go to the panel. You mentioned something very important when you mentioned the word believe, and that you're going to present us with knowledge that we can examine, we can transition out of believing things and come to knowledge, to know, and learn how to think critically, as well as evolve from our state of psychological deprivation. So we absolutely look forward to the events, and I will be there. And we were at the last 2 events when you came to MLK Center. Now, if anyone else on the panel may have a question or a comment, feel free to do so. I want to go to Omar Baruti now. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good.
Dr. Kwesi, I really have appreciated you all down through the years. I never will forget when you came to the Nation of Islam Mosque on Vance Avenue. That's where I got your VHS tape from.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I used to lecture at temple number 27 on Crenshaw.
So that was,
you know, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad?
yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Khalid? Man, told you, brother.
Back during the 80s.
Yes, sir. I will be at your lecture. And I know I'm going to enjoy every minute because I see you on YouTube. I see anywhere I can find you. I love hearing you.
Are we cut off?
No, we still here. Can you hear him?
Yes, sir. We got kind of dropped out there for a minute, but I can hear you now.
Are you there?
Hello?
Okay. You gotta change mics.
On my end, I can't hear you.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead now.
What about now?
I can't hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay, yes, sir. I plan on being at the lecture when you appear.
No, I can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay, hold on one second. All right, he's coming to closer to the mic, so
We're having
you
a drop
can.
out though.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you now.
Yes, sir. I plan on being there, and I'm encouraging everybody in the listening audience to please come. They're in for the treat of their life because that information you give us, we need to know. Right now, we're caught in a cultural prison. You got the key to help some of us get out of it.
Yes, sir. And like we said before, we come with visual documentation again to make people think, as Brother Wallace said, to come to know. All right, we call it to know thyself. This is what it's all about. When we go through some of the scriptures and we see it says, seek and you shall find. And once you find that truth, know that truth, because it is that truth that'll set us free. And I think that when you take into consideration our history as a people in this country, we of all people should ask critical answers, questions in regard to us as a people. So that's what this is all about. And over the years, brothers and sisters have been inspired and enlightened through the information. And in fact, they're going on to do bigger and better things when they awaken to this knowledge. So we all have it within us, but we have to awaken to that knowledge.
Yes, sir. And brother, we appreciate you coming. We do, and we want to pack the house when you get there.
Thank you, my brother. I'm honored to come back again.
Yes, sir.
Still on?
Okay.
Hey, good afternoon, Dr. Kwesi. This is Brother Jeff, and I had a couple of questions for you this afternoon. One, we're in the city of Memphis, Tennessee, and here in the city of Memphis, Tennessee, at the University of Memphis, they have a study of Egyptology at that particular school. So, what would be the difference in enrolling in a program, a history program, being taught at a University of Memphis, being taught from that perspective, as opposed to studying folks like yourself and your work and where you're coming from, presenting that information about ancient Kemet?
It's a powerful question. Well, like myself, been a student many years ago, as I said when I met Dr. Mann at Long Beach State in 1973, I did not know this information myself. But because of his inspiring and enlightening presentation to open my mind up, I was able to go to the classroom, in the European classroom, and I was able to see many ideas that black people created thousands of years ago, and see how it was incorporated into the Western academia. This is long before Socrates, Plato. Here we see a man named Imhotep, who was the world's first physician, who also built the world's first stone building, the first pyramid. So all these ideas are still not taught in Western academia. In fact, Memphis, Tennessee is named after the ancient city of Meneptah. It goes back 5,000 years ago. And so when we look at that pyramid right there in Memphis, Tennessee, that's built right there on the banks of the Mississippi, they were trying to duplicate how the pyramids, like the Giza Plateau, the Great Pyramid of Akhenkhufu, was built on the banks of the Nile. So Africa is all around us, and Africa speaks to us all the time, but we don't know the signs and the symbols and architectural structure that we see. Even the design of the Western Church today is designed off of the ancient temple right there in the northeast corner of Africa called Egypt today.
All right. You have another question?
And I had another question. Thank you for addressing that first one. And this one is one that I've always. Well, I'm gonna kind of set this one up a little bit. I know in the Willie Lynch letter it talks about how they destroyed the black family by destroying the black male image in front of the family, and I think in some cases they would tie his body to two horses going in opposite directions and literally tear him apart in front of the family to place fear in the people. My question is, how important would it be for for us here in the United States to know the stories of Asar, Aset, and Heru, and use that as, well, how can I say this? How could
Do the parallel between the two to show the same history. Is that what you're asking?
yes, sir, because I'm reminded of the story of ISIS, how, when Set was, when he destroyed Asar, how ISIS actually took it upon herself to put her husband back together.
Right.
But
And for those who are not familiar with the story, that's an ancient spiritual story that goes back countless thousands of years ago. In fact, I will reveal some of that from I refer to the books in stone, which are the temples itself that was carved over 3,000 and 4,000 years ago. And our brother would just mention how we see the good brother, Asar, was cut up by the evil brother Set. Here's the world's first Cain and Abel story. Long before the story of Cain and Abel, here we see the evil brother killing the good brother and cutting him up into 14 pieces and spreading his body throughout the land. But it was Set who reconstructed his body and pulled him back together. And the parallel with that, in reference to your question, my brother, is see, when we look at us as black people who were taken from Africa and we were spread throughout the world. Here we were brought over here to the Americas, South America, North America, also to England. We were spread throughout the world. But it is the African woman, all right? It's through her womb. That's what our ancestors referred to as the micro-universe. That's where the nation starts at, with the woman. So just like a Set who had to pull all the pieces together to make a star whole again, it's representing, as we see it on the relief, them standing in a 360 degrees in a living perpendicular, and her holding a symbol called the Nether Ankh. It's a symbol of the Ankh. It means life. Where's life going to come from? The woman. All right. So without her, we would not be. So if we take that and honor black women and honor her when we see the young people with the rap songs, demeaning black women and calling them all kind of names, I think this is systematically been done. I think this was something to know that African people have a great spiritual connection to the African woman. And with the destruction of that spirit, here we cannot pull ourselves together just like a Set who was able to pull us all together. So it takes the African woman, okay? She's the one on the plantation to make sure that we survive and have to eat even food that we should not have eaten, but knowing that we had to survive, she's the one that was there, okay, to maintain, the survival of the race. So this is something that we as a people have got to realize and go forward into the future and recognizing her. As I always say, the highest honor that we as a people can do. Every time a black woman passes us, we should bow to her womb, because without that womb, we would not be here. So I think that's a powerful connection that you made in reference to the story of the Star Set. When I will talk about that, I always open up my lectures with that, because this is the world's first spirituality in terms of the creation story. I know we know about Adam and Eve, but long before there was an Adam and Eve in the Hebrew version, there was the ancient African Kemetic version that goes back thousands of years, where we see a star and a Set were created simultaneously. So we see where these stories came from. There was no rib taken from a star to make a Set, because in African spirituality, they were created simultaneously. So of course, we can't say all of these things on the radio show, but with the connection and the spiritual relationship, this is very important for us as a black man and a black woman in America today to know, so we can go forward into the future.
Yeah, that was a great question, Jeffrey. We thank you for that question. We've got a couple more panelists. Brother Ashra. Lonnie.
I didn't hear that question.
Lonnie, we've got two more panelists.
Okay, great.
Lonnie, go right ahead. I think. Can you hear me pretty good now?
Yes, sir. I can't
Okay,
hear you. There's a little echo, but I can hear you.
Okay. As long as we get the job done, let's speak loudly into our microphones. Go ahead, Lonnie.
How you doing, Dr. Kwesi?
Yes, sir. How you doing, my brother?
I just want to ask a quick question. What type of
I got
opposition?
a dropout. I don't know if you can hear me, but now there's silence.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
You're back on again.
I just want to ask, what type of opposition have you faced since you come across this knowledge and trying to spread the information? Can you just enlighten the type of opposition that you come across, knowing that we are in a white supremacist society?
Well, fortunately, with our people, I have not had opposition, okay, because I come with visual documentation from the beliefs, and as I refer to the temples as the books and stones. where even a child can see the comparison where these things were copied from as I do a comparative analysis of. Fortunately, I've been able to return back to Africa 35 years to do research to document this. As Dr. Ben told me many years ago, we need young people to go back and do field research. Now, where the opposition has come from is from the European universities. So, of course, I can go into a university and lecture for an hour or an hour and a half, and the African American students are highly inspired. And yet the white students, are frustrated by the knowledge, okay, and some have a lot of opposition to it because of what their white supremacy mindset, okay. They've been taught that nothing happened on the planet until Europeans came, that Africans were savages and heathens, and black people had no history, had no civilization. So when they come and sit there in the audience and see this information, even with a white supremacy mindset through Western academia, they can see without question these things were stolen from African people. We're talking about the oldest colossal on the planet Earth. That is Haru and Akis, that the Greeks refer to as the Sphinx. Here we see that is truly a black African colossal that African people built there. No one can deny that. The oldest on the planet Earth. So with our people, there has been no opposition. But with the Europeans, because the white supremacy mindset, okay, through Western academia that is taught that, okay, they have a hard time with it because now they can see that the Europeans did not start civilization, did not start religion, and these ideas that we're taught in Western the world today, and that's the fear of this African knowledge.
Okay. All right, we've got Brother Talut here. Brother Talut, you have a question for Dr. Ashra Kwesi.
How you doing, my brother?
Comment.
I don't have a question. I would like to just say I would want to...
Can you hear him, Ashra?
If you can get closer to the mic.
You speak loud into the mic.
Can you hear me now?
This is crazy. This is crazy, man.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you quite well.
I'm sorry, I don't know if you were talking, brother, but you dropped out on me. I might have to repeat the question.
How about now? Okay.
Okay. We got dropped out again.
We need the engineer.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Well, trying to tell our story is really hard nowadays.
Hey, Brother Kwesi.
Listen, I can hear you. I heard Brother Crazy. I can hear you.
We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. We're all trying to share the same mic. And the technicians are working on it.
Okay. As long as nobody's trying to sabotage the knowledge.
Well, you know how it is when we're trying to broadcast and the topic gets good. All kind of things end up happening.
Yeah, that's usually the case.
But I just wanted to, we're in the Bible Belt here in Tennessee, and just trying to transform or maybe inform the people here, because it's still that European form of Christianity that most people predominantly here are practicing. Do you think that black people here will be how can I say this? Like, and I keep going back to the woman in regards to this, because in Christianity you have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. But when we go back to our African traditions, the mother is there within the Trinity. So how empowering is that for black women? If they're to dive into that knowledge, how empowering would that be for black women to know that their traditional spiritual system included them in the Godhead, in the Trinity?
I think it's very empowering. And first of all, we have to know that we are a deeply spiritual people, as one would say, a deeply religious people. And when we unlock that spirituality within ourselves, which is naturally there, then we can see our own black divinity. When we look at the Catholic Church and we look at the Madonna and Child, the Black Madonna and Child that they still worship in the Vatican, they still worship in Europe, that Black Madonna is a set who the Greeks refer to as Isis. When the Romans took her throughout their empire, this is who they worshiped. When that movie was out there called the Da Vinci Code, and even though they gave it a negative connotation, but for those who know the truth, they know that that idea came from the Black Madonna. So we see the Mary and the Jesus. We're looking at African spirituality, okay, that's been now whitewashed in a European white version. And I'm going to show the museums, I'm going to show the Black Madonna, I'm going to reveal that, I'm going to show the Pope worshiping the Black Madonna, I'm going to show the Madonna and Child on the temples and tombs, with Theodosius and Justinian in the 4th and 6th century AD trying to chisel her out. Why? Because they were developing a white version of it, but the threat was to the fact that black people already had that spirituality around the spiritual mother thousands of years ago, okay, on the temple of tombs. So what we want to do is create the comparative analysis. We're not talking about something that Ashra Kwesi created. We're talking about that which was on the temples that the Europeans saw when they came into Africa, that was there thousands of years before they got there, and will be there thousands of years long after the Western world. So I'm saying if others have benefited from it, then the very people that created it, black people, need to know about this deep spiritual stories that we see has now been incorporated into a European or white version of it today. So I think it's very empowering when brothers and sisters, and especially sisters as well, who will see that. We are naturally a spiritual people. That's what we've got to look at. When we understand what the Black Christ represents, and we understand that spiritual development, and we see why did the Romans, why did they exterminate the first Christians called the Gnostics? Because they were the knowers of the truth. They knew what this was all about. They knew what the Romans were up to. They led into the Byzantine Roman Christianity. They led into Catholicism. And from there, they became the various denominations of Western version of Christianity. But again, when we see the foundation of it, that's what we're dealing with. Where did it start from? It starts right there in Africa. When you look at the Bible, why are the first Bibles written in Alexandria, Egypt? That's a critical question. But the papyruses, where the name paper gets its name from the ancient papyruses that told about these spiritual stories. And I see that this is an awakening. And again, as I said before, we will have the visual documentation. We will do the comparative analysis. And one can think for themselves and see the power of this spiritual as well as historical information. So it definitely will be very empowering for all of our people to witness this.
All right, and thank you, Dr. Kwesi. I actually just wanted to piggyback on something I heard you mention there. We're in Memphis, Tennessee right now, but me and along with the couple, one of the panelists, Brother Lonnie, and two of the people in the audience, we're from Jackson, Tennessee, about an hour east of Memphis.
Yes, sir.
And one of the brothers here was doing the research on the names of our city before it was Jackson. Of course, they named the city after Andrew Jackson, the 7th president. But what we found when we did the history of the city, the name of the city of Jackson used to be Alexandria. And it's just about maybe an hour away from Memphis. But I wanted to go back to something you said previously about the Nazis and
The Nazis? I don't think I mentioned the Nazis.
well, maybe.
Did I say the Gnostics, you mean?
Well, maybe I misheard you, but what I wanted to see if you could expound on is actually the science of the swastika, how that would, if you know the history of the swastika symbol.
Yes, so we're kind of veering off from the lecture that I'm coming with, but the swastika is called the Benji Fun Fu. That is not a German symbol. I have a lecture called the Ethiopia from the Ancient Kushites to the Black Lion. And in that lecture, I show from the temples we go to Ethiopia annually every year. That's the importance of doing field research, as Dr. Ben said many years ago. And there you see the churches in Alabama. I mean, these are monolithic churches carved deep down into the ground, and the windows are in the Digi Funtu, or one would say today, the swastika. The Germans came and copied that symbol. What that represents the four elements, the four qualities. If you notice, the Digi Funtu, or as they call it swastika, is in a 90-degree angle. So there's four, so we see these 90-degree angles, and you see four of them, so that's 4 times 90, 360 degrees. Okay, that represents a circle. Okay, that they saw it as the sun. You see it in the Meroitic or the Kushite culture. So again, where we see the plagiarizing of ancient African symbols to go back thousands of years ago. Now, we see it today, unfortunately, it's revealed as Hitler's madness in terms of the EU for the SS and the whole killing of European Jews in Germany. That's how European and most people see that symbol today. But actually, it's an ancient African symbol. It represents the four elements of the four qualities. And it's called right there himself.
Yeah.
All right, so it's right there. So it's not something that Ashra Kwesi is saying. It's documented on the temples when I was in the Sudan with the ancient Kushites so many years ago. So when you search for Dr. Ben, you see it on the temples there. So it's an ancient African symbol.
All right, thank you, brother Dr. Kwesi. We're going to leave it right there, and we'll see you on the 4th. Thank you for calling in.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to announce
about where it's going to be at.
it's going to be on Bill and Danny Thomas at the Martin Luther King Labor Center. Doors open at 2:30, event beginning at 4 o'clock. Dr. Ashra Kwesi and his wife, Manira Kwesi, coming to Memphis to the Dr. Martin Luther King Center on Bill and Danny Thomas. We thank you for calling in, brother, and we'll see you there and hope to have you back soon.
Yes, sir.
So we look to...
to be on the show. And,
yes, sir, anytime.
Express some Black Love Power today.
Yes, sir, Black Love Power. And so we look to meeting and greeting with you and shaking your hand. All right?
You got it.
All right. Now he says something very important. And his presentation is in line with much of what we talk about. And here's something right here. You asked about the Nazis, in which he did say that it was sort of veering off, but he also said that he does a lecture on that as well. So we will come back around to that. It just depends on what point. It says something right here. Goebbels, Joseph Goebbels, and the brain behind Nazi propaganda, heard culture being discussed. He brought out his revolver. That shows that the Nazis, who were and are the most tragic expression of imperialism and of its thirst for domination, if they were degenerates like Hitler, had a clear idea of the value of culture and the factor of resistance to foreign domination. Culture and identity of a people. And I think we've got, do we have the mics right, Talu?
Oh,
How's that? Was that one shaping up pretty good?
don't know.
Yes.
Are we on?
You're on.
No,
Yes,
mics are good.
Yes, the mics are good.
Okay. Ziad wants to call. You can call right now, Ziad, with a question or comment. I want to go to you, Talu.
Mm-hmm.
The culture and identity of a people.
Yes.
Any way you want to go with that. You want to relate it to something Dr. Kwesi said, or your own experience and research and critical thinking and digging. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, I've heard for decades that our people are culturally refined, that we in fact have a culture. But I can't find the evidence that we have a culture. Most of the time, individuals point to entertainment as culture. We dance a certain way. We make music a certain way. We party a certain way. These things do not create culture. Number one is because there's an industry behind these things that generate revenue. Anybody can find some black people. And I'll give this example. Let me back up. An example of that is you can take a guitar, and put it in a cage with a monkey. And a human being can stand outside that cage and play. Pretty soon, that animal is going to pick up that guitar and do something with it. Pretty soon. Okay, so we can't say that music or entertainment or any of those things have to do with culture. Culture is something that is grown out of the necessity of human existence that bond people together. case in history. We speak oftentimes about the fact of how divided we are versus how much we've bonded. So if you're dealing with culture and you're looking for the bonds that bring us together, they're not there.
Okay.
And we're struggling even today trying to find out why is it that we can't unite and do anything. We're having that tremendous problem. So if you're going to mention culture, then how, or if you're going to interject culture, true culture, and among us there isn't anything that resembles any qualified unity, then the question is, where is the culture?
Okay. Great question. You said a lot, and then you raised the question behind what you said. But let's take a call, and then we're going to dig into this question a little further. We won't finish today, but we'll come back, Corey, and do some more digging. How's that sound? Let's take a call.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Great, great. Actually, I wanted to ask Brother Kwesi, was that his name, Kwesi?
Ashra Kwesi, yes, his last name.
Actually, I wanted to ask him a question, but I can ask this audience, and perhaps they can answer it, someone out of the audience. Brother Kwesi had mentioned that, I'm going to put it like this. Okay, I appreciate the land, and I also appreciate the farmer that plants the seed in the soil of the land. And so my question to everybody is, okay, the land being the woman, where the seed is planted by the farmer, which is the man, should we give more praise to the land and bow to the land and not appreciate the farmer, or should we appreciate both the farmer, the one that planted the seed, and the land as well, both?
All right, we got it. Thank you for your question.
All right.
A great mathematical question. Omar, I'd like to pass that ball to you.
You know, when you look at husbandry, farming, you cannot have one without the other. They both go hand in hand. One does not exist without the other. And I want to mention something that Dr. Luke mentioned earlier about this culture thing. We have a culture, but it's a toxic culture. It is learned patterns of behavior that are so ingrained in us that we react to our environment in negative ways that cause us to destroy ourselves. And that culture was given to us over the past several hundred years by the enemy of our rise, the enemy of black people all over the earth. The culture that we came over here with, they stripped us of it. Name, language, religion, God, they stripped us of all of that. Our family values, our political system, they stripped us of all of that, and they gave us what they wanted us to have. And that has injured us and continue to injure us as we move forward through time. And we're not going to change until we go back and learn who we are as a people and go back and recapture our culture. Because what we do is against our nature, completely against our nature. And as long as we operate against our nature, as a people, we're going to continue to stay at the bottom. The biggest part of our culture that's killing us is religion. And I'm glad that Dr. Kwesi is talking about religion, because that's like a prison unto itself. If we don't escape the religious part of our culture, we are doomed to stay in that prison until we leave the earth. As a people, we'll become extinct if we don't escape that part.
And Omar, you said that African Americans / black people are imprisoned by present day religion that they worship in these churches under the guidance of these preachers. But real quick, you're laughing. You want to add something to it. Go right ahead.
You know, every time I look around, we keep building bricks to keep the prison strong so we can't break out of it. We got to quit doing that.
All right. We've got a call on the line, but I want to get to you real quick, Lonnie, and then let's come back to the caller. Go ahead, Lonnie. Now, Ziad has a question on the table, and I'm going to say something real quick, and the answer to that question should be comprehensive. Well, he was using words like appreciate one, not appreciate the other one. Which one should you appreciate more than the other? And Omar said that they must be appreciated equally. So culture has to do with what is comprehensive, what is holistic. And Talud, you said last week or week before last, you said human beings with intelligence address the issues of their environment. Lonnie.
Yeah, when we talk about culture and identity, we got to understand that ours has been stolen. And to get to what the brother was saying about, putting the farmer on the land first, I agree with Brother Baruti. It takes both, right? And what this society does is put one over the other to cause conflict and division between the farmer and the land. And we have to reverse that. We have to reverse the psyche of our people, and especially when it comes to religion and spirituality, because today's society, we leave out spirituality. It's gone out the window. And now we're glorifying things that bring our culture to the demise. And one thing is the homosexuality agenda that is prevalent in our religious society. That it seems that the religious entity of today is like they push that in the back, or they want to leave it as a hush hush, not realizing how it's harming our younger generation, and they're perpetuating a new cycle that is going to be at the forefront of the argument. It's no longer going to be about how white people do black people. It's going to be how people do gay people, and stuff like that. So instead of talking about what's more important, the issues are being distracted on other topics that really are hindering us from getting at least one part of the phase done. So
Right. You raise another complexity of another range of issues there, one being this homosexual agenda, which we're hearing a lot about, the effemination of young African American men. We're going to dig into that too. Somebody write that down as a future topic. Let's take a call real quick. Go ahead, caller.
No. Brother Red, are you there?
Yes, sir, we're here. Go right ahead.
Yeah, check it out and see a guest and the guy. A lot of African Americans, we have a first African American president. I don't need to go back to Africa to know my history. I can read my Bible when you say about black Bible, white Bible. Close your eyes and meditate and think about self, love yourself. A lot of black folks, they pray for themselves and they also pray for their oppressor. You can't have it both ways. With white, I can't speak for all of them, they have a white Jesus. So I haven't seen a black Jesus in no white church since I've been on this earth. We so messed up because of slavery. I'll give you a good example of something. When the guy said we need to go back to Africa and learn our history, all they had to do is close my eyes and meditate on the family and me, uncles and all that. They left a memory in our minds of this Memorial Day. Check this out. We need to stop aborting our babies. A lot of whites, when they get mad, you can see the worst of it. They say, let them kill all themselves. They got crime in their community, they got the Planned Parenthood in their community, let them kill all each other. Then we always think about all the babies we strong men, like Brother Baruti and Brother Jerry Steele and everybody, Lonnie Simmons. Then we always say a prayer for all the babies we aborted. Guess who want to run this country? And this one said, President Obama got her what she wanted because her favorite person was Margaret Sanger. That was Hillary Clinton. Look at that ominous crime bill. When you kill all your black young folks, you don't have the majority. When women start aborting their babies, you never become the majority. That's why I said we ought to tell our women, because Donald Trump, in a sense, said it, he said it the wrong way. Black folks need to stop aborting, innocent people. They don't even have a chance. Look how many engineers, look how many people that could have been like in Africa building pyramids, that we abort them and we don't give them a fighting chance. If we made it from slavery, why would we want to knock out our future generation because of our selfish greed or money or no lack of faith? I would never tell my girlfriend or my wife, if I ever have one, to abort a baby.
Okay, wrap it up, Alan. We're up against the clock.
You know what? You sometimes we abort.
Take 15 seconds, Alan, and wrap it up.
Also, we feel it like the guy said, Bill.
Hey, Alan.
And we can't.
Alan, 15 seconds and 10 seconds, wrap it up. Go.
No. Hillary Clinton's favorite, she said her role model is Margaret Thatcher. When the FBI get on her and say she's going to jail, you could bring that Margaret Thatcher out here and she can be more sincere with African American people because the Clintons, they are all right, but they just need to awaken in and knock on their head sometimes.
10.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, he did it.
Yeah, he made some good points. Absolutely made some points, but we're up against the clock, and we want to move as quickly as we can. Lonnie, I think you had a comment.
I was just going to say, I heard them say, you don't have to go to Africa because you can read the book, and I understand, what he's trying to say because we are in the history. But it is important that our people do go back to Africa at least once because imagery is key, and for us to see ourselves on stone chiseled in seats of kingly order or something, that can do a lot to us psychologically. That you might just seeing the imagery you can actually, that is your reality is your perception. So if you can see that, then you can see yourself in the future doing that role. So
Okay.
I just want to,
A great comment. Thank you. We've got some friends at the Cleveland Street Flea Market. Lois Lomax. Give her a call, 626-8502. She has the RBG, that's red, black, and green. Jewelry, soap, oils, African dresses, and necklace. Go see my friend Shirley Patton for all of your sewing needs. 901-513-3135. Cleveland Street Market. Go and see my friends there for all of the needs that you need to be taken care of. K1, my young friend says, Mogalan. Give him a call. 901-270-9080. Good prices, friendly staff, and quality work. K1 says Mogalan. And do we have a call on the line, Isaac?
Brother Kazi.
Brother Kazi, we're up against the clock, Brother Kazi.
Yes, sir.
Take 90 seconds.
Brother,
Let's move with the quickness.
And also thank Brother Kwesi for his remarks. And I'm glad that he did mention Dr. Ben Yakinan, who is sort of the grandfather of Americans going to Africa to do the digs and the restoration of our ancient history. And it's very important. I think I'm very glad to hear this conversation because it brings up roles of religion in our society. And of course, brother, we've got the various religions, and I think in the African nations that we're building, and we are, I believe, building a nation. It may not look like it, but brick by brick, it will in time become a culture, brother Blue. And it will probably be based upon many of the early African thought, of people who are God's first people who have had a lot of experience with philosophy and building and everything else that has a lot to share with the new African American nation that's going to be developed here. And because we have no choice but to reclaim our history. Well, I'm very happy to, that is being talked about because religion will determine, Brother Toulouse, what our justice system will look like in the future here in Memphis, Tennessee, and how do we deal with stopping the killings and the crimes and everything else we have to deal with, what kind of court system. So all of that is in the purview of somewhere you've got to have the principle that's going to come from one of the religions or another. But in the new African nation, of course, all religions are going to be tolerated. Just want to throw that out for us.
All right. Thank you. And will we see you at the event? Kazi,
Yes, sir.
will we see you at the event?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
All right, let's keep it moving. Thank you for your call. And we've
Thank
been,
you for having me.
yes, sir, anytime. And we've been talking about culture relative to the imperialist white supremacy, etc. Now, this quote This took place in February the 20th in 1970, a speech given by Amilcar Cabral, one of my favorite individuals to study. So Goebbels heard him talking about culture, not just culture, but identity as well, is when he pulled his revolver out. Goebbels, the brain behind Nazi propaganda during the time of Hitler. Right? And here's something right here. It says culture and identity, Brother Talib. Real quick, we're up against the clock. Let's move real quick. It's like the Golden State Warriors moved in that game on yesterday evening. Let's move with the quickness, Jeff. It says everyone has culture. However, while we are born into cultures, we are not born with culture. Culture is something that we learn. Culture is dynamic and adapts to changing circumstances. Some aspects of culture are our identity, ethnicity, age or generation, gender, sexual orientation, education, occupation, socioeconomic status, and ability/disability, period. Culture can also be used to describe our way of life and the values, beliefs, and attitudes that we use in everyday life. Some definitions of culture focus on art, religion, eating habits, rituals, humor, science, law, sports, ceremonies, and so on. It is important to understand that there is much variation within cultures as between them, and that individuals express their cultures in various ways depending on their circumstances. Dr. Talib.
Well, I still subscribe to the idea that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that's why I passed the ball back to you.
Thank you. But I want to address something Dr. Ziad brought about.
Yes.
As far as the man and the woman relationship. I do not subscribe to the idea that a woman should head the family. I believe that we need to develop a structure that includes the male leading the family, and that the woman has her role in the family. It's because of our family structure destruction that caused us to be in the state that we're in right now. We're searching for answers. We're looking for answers that are primarily primitive. Primitive answers that have been questions, that has been answered thousands of years ago. We're today trying to find those answers because we gave up a fundamental right of every human being to structure the family. And quickly, in this day and time, where violence is creeping in on us as a people from all angles, psychological and physical, we are disoriented. So we're looking for an answer from almost anybody. Who wants to look? This is a very violent world today. Okay, we're living in a state of total violence. And here someone wants to suggest that the woman lead the man. It's not going to work. It's been tried before. It didn't work then. It didn't work 1,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago. That's why we ended up in this structure where the man leads the family. And that's the order that God gave. Not the white Jesus Christ either. The creator of all things established the order, like the sun, the moon, and the stars. The man, the woman, and the children. And that's it.
All right, let's move really as quickly as possible. Dr. Kwesi spoke to the issue of woman-man relationships. We even brought in the analogy or the symbolic story of Ashur and Set. It was Seth killing, what was his brother's name?
Seth killed Asar.
Asar, right. And real quick, here's a question for all of us. Are women the carriers of a culture? And Jeffrey, if you need me to break that down and explain it a little bit, I will. It's something that I've been looking at for a while. Jeffrey, you have something to read. Let's roll.
Okay, I came across something this past week it says, and I'm going to address your question as well,
Yes.
briefly. And I've got to say to that question, I've got to respond that because I know that the mother is the first teacher of the child. Now, I've got to say yes to that question. But not only the mother, we all are fathers too, because we all learn to behave. Well, we behave due to the things that we learn and the things that we pick up from other people. It's learned behavior. But I came across this, and I wanted to read it real quick. It says, "How to make a race of people forget who they are over generations." First, you take them, and I'm just saying this because it's highly relevant to this topic. You take them away from their people. You give them a different name, punish them, kill, burn, lynch them, and when they get out of line, while their family watch and drive them in fear. Then the women will turn to the oppressors for safety. Separate their family from their family and their tribe from tribe so they don't share memories of who they are. Give them a new religion. Have them believe their God is punishing them while he allowed them to suffer. Allow them to gather only to celebrate the oppressor's traditions and not theirs. Show them images of the oppressors as great and images of them as not so great. When their children are born, they have no memories of where they came from, passed down to them. They have no self-identity, but to adopt the one that their parents and their parents before their parents on the plantation. So I want to just say that and say, even now that still seems highly relevant.
Okay, and this document, what is the source of your document? This document, rather?
Actually, it's just a creative work I came across on Instagram, a screenshot from I Am a God I.
Okay, the title is I Am a God I. But we can find some of this historical data that you just pointed out in one book, The Odyssey of the African American, by the three authors, Clark and Hines, and the couple that was Clark and then Hines. And we have all kinds of historical documents talking about the separation of husband from wife and children. When many of them got off the boats, according to one author, was that they were running to and fro, black people looking for their loved ones and relatives. Omar, we own culture and identity. Are women the carriers of a culture?
Because we only have, 2 or 3 minutes.
Wherever we leave off today, we'll start there on next Sunday. How's that?
Okay, let me do this. When you're talking about that, I'm going to clarify something for a listener.
Okay.
I was saying that the black man is out of his nature.
Okay.
And I want to clarify nature. What is the nature? It's natural for animals, for the male to be with the female. When you have a society that says you can have gay and lesbian, transvestite, and all these other vices that come on the scene, that's out of your nature. Quit trying to be like them. That's them. Don't be them. Be yourself. When you have disrespect for the woman, that's the man that would hit his woman in the head with a club and drag her into a cave. That's never been you. You never lived in a cave, and you ain't never hit your woman to drag her into a cave. You have always treated your woman with respect. In fact, when there was a king in Africa, there was always a queen sitting right on the throne beside him. That's how you treated the woman. She always was respected by you. You don't disrespect the woman at all. Boys went from boyhood, they went through a period of transition to manhood. They knew who they were. And men were there to guide them on that path. And like Dr. Snoop said, the man was the head of the house. He was the defender, the protector of the woman and his children. We don't have that today. The man was the provider and the maintainer of his family. We don't have that today. We're out of our nature. That is our nature. In some African language, there is no word for homosexual. They never heard of it because they never had it.
Okay, we're going to have to, let's take 30 seconds each and wrap it up. Great comment, Omar. 30 seconds, final thoughts, and we'll pick up next week on the same topic.
My final thought
30 seconds.
is think about what's happening now. They're about to spend more money on transgender bathrooms than your kids' education.
Can you tell us who they are real quick? I know we
This
up against
society, this
society.
this American society
American
that's
society.
ran by predominantly white racist people.
Okay. Taluk, final thoughts, 30 seconds.
Yeah, let's not be misled by people, men and women, who are about the business of making women gods again.
Ladies and gentlemen. 30 seconds. Jeffrey, final thoughts.
Well, in our universe, the way that I see the universe, there's a positive and a negative. There's also energies that consist of feminine powers and masculine powers. You cannot have life without the equal balance of both. And I don't want to say that I will say the reason for my question to Dr. Kwesi, and I see that being relevant now in today's society here that we live in regards to the women actually knowing that, having the self-confidence in themselves and being able to see themselves in that trinity, because we are, like you said, Dr. Baruti said, we're in a backward society. And that's based upon our relationship with the enemy who is seeking to destroy us. So,
Thank you for your final comment. And next we'll pick up right there. We'll talk more about the question of whether or not women are the carriers of a culture. And then we'll also get into, do men defend that culture? In fact, how does culture come about? How does it evolve? Next Sunday. And thank you,
All right,
Isaac, everybody for being here. See you next week.
You've been
Love
listening
Power.
to the Love Power
I'm sorry.
Show right here on
Get
M600 WMQL, and a station that is AME that always show First 48. They're gonna be showing a new edition of Roots tonight. Wow.
Yes, right.
That's right, tonight. Where they show First 48 about all these sins and how you committed crime.